how are you today? And I'd like to thank you for being with us today and answering some questions.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
This is awesome.
What's the name of the studio?
This is Mix Monsters.
Mix Monsters. How do you spell
With a
that?
Z.
With a Z. Well, how long have you been doing this?
I've pretty much always been doing it. When I was a little kid, I had drums in my room, probably started about 7. And I always had a couple of mics with a cassette deck laying around. I still have the tapes. And high school bands eventually went to State University of New York at Fredonia in their Tonmeister program. Learned a little bit more of the details of what's happening, what I've been doing. And then when I graduated, I did sound for SeaWorld in Florida and moved right into building studios and making records.
Well, let me ask you this. How did you get hooked up with some of the cats in the local Orlando area, such as Pat Travers and Les Dudek and other cats that come through town? And how can they find you after that?
Well, I think it's a good idea for people to do as much as they can in the industry if they want to get some kind of a break. And what I was doing was, I was down at the arena unloading trucks. And I met someone who knew Les Dudek and turned me on to Les, and we started playing. And from that, I got a call from, was it you, Kevin?
Yes.
For the Pat Travers gig. Actually, you were looking for a different Sean.
That is correct.
It was the accidental call that put me in with Pat Travers. Did the audition, did great, and went out and did 5 years with Pat. The whole time, though, I've been working in studios because the bands don't tour 365 days a year. We go out, do some shows, and come home. I got to do something, so recording bands, making records, setting studios up.
How do you feel about that? Bands actually, at this point in time, have to play with multiple people, musicians in general, in order to make their ends meet. They have to work outside of their normal comfort zone with maybe 1 or 2 bands, or in this case, you're working within your comfort zone, running a studio, a very nice studio, a very good sounding studio, making awesome tracks, and still be able to find the time to play to make that satisfaction in your life.
Well, I'm one of those guys, I had to make a job for myself. The studio, I built this by hand with friends of mine and went to Home Depot, got the drywall, cut the holes in the walls, did all that stuff, wired it all, spec'd out the gear, installed it, all that. But I also play with a number of groups too, because really you have to diversify. If I was to just try and make a living for my family playing in bands, it's tough. There's other ways bands can make money. If they get a song placed in a commercial, or they nowadays there's Google, YouTube, monetizing your videos, still song placement, licensing, and really you can get your song out on iTunes in like 3 days. So you can sell your music anywhere. But I say you should be able to do a few different things and then pick a couple of them and get really good at those.
What were some of the pitfalls along the way to this point that you've avoided, and how did you avoid them?
Well, it's interesting that back in the day when we were looking for gigs, there was no internet. So I had to get 8x10 photos printed of myself with a little smile and pass them to the agencies, and maybe a cassette with my drumming on it. And but nowadays, you can go on Facebook and Twitter, have your own Reverb Nation, your own YouTube page. Everything you do can be up on YouTube. That's a good thing because everybody has a way to expose themselves. The negative side is everybody's doing it, so you're in a sea of about a bazillion bands. And so to really stand out, you need a good video and a good song, but also it's nice to have a little budget for promotion. So you can still do TV and radio and some of the ways to get people that aren't on the internet.
There's so many talented artists in Central Florida that are actually being missed because people don't know how to contact them. Most of these cats, I believe, would be jumping at the chance to work on anybody's material because it only opens more doors. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel that what I'm doing is my life's work. So I don't half-ass anything. You know, if I get a band in here and they want a 3-song demo, I'm going to make sure when it leaves at the end of the night that it sounds kind of like a record. and that they're happy with it and proud with it. When I work on a record, I put the extra time in to make sure it's right, because a year down the road when I'm listening to the record, I don't want to go, oh yeah, the budget was small, or oh yeah, I ran out of time. I want it to kick ass when I put it in that CD player.
I always refer to producers as the fourth member of a three-piece band.
Well, a producer, there's different kinds of producers. There's the kind of producer that just oversees the budget. There's the kind of producer that's very musical and he understands every note and every chord, like a George Martin. And then there's the kind of producer that's also an engineer, and he can just get the sounds and mix the record, maybe coach the band on what's a good take or something. I'm one of those guys that I get into the arrangement of the song. The music, are the parts working together? Is the melody right? Are the harmonies right? Is the dynamic in the parts working? And then, of course, I engineer and mix it as well. So
I think you do
just
an
out of
awesome
necessity,
job.
I'm doing it all.
An awesome job at both ends of that spectrum.
And I've learned from some pretty cool people some things to do and not to do, and I made a lot of mistakes. So I'm to the point now, it's basically put the pedal down, and what comes out the other end should sound grade A.
Where do you see this business going in the future with the assistance of engineers and producers and local studios and resources such as this? Where do you see the future of this industry going?
Well, I don't think there'll ever be a need to completely close big studios, because you need somewhere to record an orchestra. Large groups and their entourage need a place to go. This studio is a mid-sized studio. It's private, and I wouldn't be bringing a 30-piece orchestra in here, so there is a need for that. But I see a lot of the future, and today, tons of guys are producing records that you see out on the shelves, or they're in a movie. It's a soundtrack for somebody. They've got a laptop in their living room.
Yeah.
So the industry's wide open. I do believe that you should always let people do what they do. In other words, you don't try to produce your own record if you've never produced a record before. Get someone who's done it. You don't try to play your own keyboards if you're a guitar player just because you need keyboards. Get a keyboard player. Get the guys who do what they do to do what they do, and then you sound and look a lot better. Use the people around you to elevate what you're doing. That's important.
Tell me more about what you're doing now. What is Sean up to now?
Well, I'm making a lot of records right now. The Pat Travers Can Do record is due out in about a week. That's for Frontiers Records. That album I actually was hired to engineer it. The Pat Travers band was just coming in here to play it, and I was just going to engineer and mix the record. Well, they came in, they did a few songs, and Sandy lives in New York. So Pat was coming in to put the ideas for the next group of songs down, and he'd say, why don't you put a drum track down? So I'd go bang a drum track down, and by the time we got to the end, he just says, I'm going to use your tracks. And so I ended up drumming on the album as well. We just did Blues on Fire, which is a collection of 1920s blues songs. That came out great. That one went up to Amazon's top 5 blues charts. I just released my own record last year, Outbound Road's Hard Country, which went up to number 2 on the top 30 indie charts for one of our songs. That was fun. And I'm just making a lot of records here. Regional bands come in and do their albums. I've got the national records coming through here. I've done, in the last couple of years, another half a dozen albums with Rob Rock. And I'm trying to do gigs in between all this. I kind of make my own schedule so I can do what I can squeeze in, you know.
Well, that's good. Like you said about the Outbound Road, reached number 4 on the main country charts as well. Let's not forget that. You've done a number of albums and releases with Pat Travers, countless tours, countless miles. If you had to do that all over again, would you go the same route that you've gone up to this point, or do you think that was more like a good college education?
Well, sometimes I have to pinch myself to see if I'm dreaming all this, because it's just way too much fun. And people say, well, what if you had $1 million? What would you do? And I would do exactly what I'm doing. I might be in a different room, I might be with different people, but I'd be doing the same thing. You know? I'm doing what I love doing.
Well, I love you doing it.
Just to touch one more time on the diversifying, any talent that you have, whether it's musical or not, you should work that talent, because you never know. If I break my leg and someone has to fill in for me for a gig, I might not be able to make money. So I write articles for Recording Magazine on mixing. I started a school training Full Sail grads and other engineers how to mix. I still train in here. Drum lessons. These are all things I have to do to fill the month.
That would be your ear training test class?
The ear training, yeah. And the reason I started that was schools like Full Sail are amazing. Great gear, some great teachers over there, but they teach gear. And when a student comes out of there, they know how to run gear. They know how to run a signal around the room. But they've never had to listen. They can't identify frequencies, compression, attack, and release times, or delay times of 2 to 80 milliseconds. It's a mystery. So you have to focus and study that stuff before your mixes get to the point where they stand up to the pro mixes out there. And once you have that, then you can mix on a 4-track cassette recorder or mix a live show or whatever. You understand the elements of the... you can quantify what you're hearing.
I'd like to know what you think your belief in what the future for Mix Monsters Studio holds. Are you going to stay in this area? Do you want to expand? Do you want to move maybe to a new locale? Are you happy with what's gone on so far and things are going to continue at that pace?
Well, I've considered a couple of times moving. When I started recording some country records, I was thinking maybe I'll go to Nashville. Or maybe I'll go do some rock in LA, or I'll go to New York. Those are kind of like the big hubs. But really, I've been here since about 1987, and I know everybody in this area. I know the old guys, the young guys, the guys in the cover bands, the guys out there touring. And a lot of my friends are also all over the world because I met them all over the world. They're not from Orlando. So for me, especially with being able to video and audio and do stuff, it leaves this room and it goes right to Germany or Finland or Italy or something. It almost doesn't matter where you live. So since this is all set up for me and it rocks and I'm ready to do drums, vocals, everything on a moment's notice, I don't see any reason to leave. And so I see Mix Monsters really continuing to do more and more of exactly the same, only it just seems to always get better.
How has your approach to this digital age changed the way that you market yourself? And what do you think the digital age is going to do in the very near future that's going to alter how you market yourself as of right now? How are you reaching out to people to let them know Mix Monsters is here? Mix Monsters has an endless well of talent to tap from. It's a resource that nobody should ever pass up.
Well, basically, the digital age is very cool. Right from the beginning, it changed everything because I used to have a reel-to-reel tape deck over there. And if you wanted to punch someone in, you were recording over what was underneath. So if they didn't like that take, let's go back. It's too late. It's gone. With digital, there's always undo. I could slide tracks forward and backward in time against the rest of the band that you can't do with tape. A lot of things you can do. But once it's done, to be able to just make a digital file like an MP3 and email it to someone or post it on Facebook or post it on Twitter and have potentially 5, 10, 20,000 people hear it within 5 minutes is amazing. I used to have to send videotapes in the mail to people. How difficult was that? And then you reached one person, you know? I find it to be amazing. This whole Gig Digest thing, tying in the local community of artists and musicians and agents, is something this area needs. Bands don't have anywhere to go knock on the door, walk in, sit down and go, hi, this is my band, we need gigs, we need to make a record and this and that. There is nothing like that. So I'm hoping to see some of that, and if I could be a part of it, I'd be more than happy to. I just see digital can get you everywhere in a heartbeat. iTunes, you can make your 69 cents or whatever it is after they take their cut in 5 minutes. But the big thing is getting the word out there, so sometimes it's more than just a post on Facebook or something. It would be nice if a band had a great video and they could go on TV. If somehow you could get on David Letterman, it's over. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But digital has been huge for musicians.
Do you have any ideas, like, say, sitting in Skype on sessions or, you know, mobile recording or anything else that might take Mix Monsters to a level that you're not at now, and not that you're not happy with where it's at, but can it be better, and how can you make it that way, being the innovator and being the boss, being the creator?
Well, I think it'd be cooler to do more records. So whatever it takes to do that, that's why I post about what I'm doing on Facebook and stuff, because I like people to know what I'm up to so that, you know, maybe they'll want to come work with me. But the mobile recording thing is cool. It just takes a bunch of gear and moving around, and I'm kind of busy in here. I do like the education. thing, because a lot of guys, like, normally when I have students come in, they say, I know it sounds bad, but I don't know what to do to make it sound better. So we get them to the point where they know how to quantify why it sounds bad and then make adjustments, and before you know it, they're mixing, you know. So I'd say if I could get a little more into education besides writing the articles and maybe instructional videos, I have things I do in here I don't see other people doing. And simple things like how I set up click tracks with drum machines, how I set up the tracking sessions, how I set up the room, things like that. So I'm interested in sharing that stuff because it works for me, it works quick, and you know, a lot of people could be doing it.
Well, Sean, again, we thank you. Gig Digest thanks you. Central Florida thanks you. The resources we're sitting on here, thank you. Hopefully people will get off their tushes and use that resource.
I think they will. My schedule is pretty full, and I can always find room for somebody, but it gets busy. I like it that way.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Well, thank you guys for coming. This is awesome.
Great invite. We appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Good luck in the future, and please stay in touch.
See you at Mix Monsters.
Skyscrapers, they're making me dizzy. I couldn't wait to get back home to you. I need a place with plenty of space where I can take life at a slower pace. You can't take the small town out of me. No, I've gotta be free. I like things you can't buy with money. I like the simple life with my honey. The big city don't mean much to me. There's something about the clean air. There's something about the people there. Small town America is home to me. Bright lights open all night makes it hard to see the moonlight reflecting in your eyes. I can't wait to see your face and get back where I was raised, 'cause you can't take the small town out of me. This cowboy's gotta be free. I like things you can't buy with money. I like the simple life of my honey. The big city don't mean much to me. There's something about the clean air. There's something about the people there. Small town America is home to me. All the busy people, their life is flying by. I wanna put my boots down in a small town and slow down. I like things you can't buy with money. I like the simple life of my